Today, I'd like to welcome my guest, Peter Lavin, the UI expert, also founder of UserActive. Peter is passionate about helping SaaS companies drive growth by making UI product improvements. Peter, thank you so much for taking the time to share your experience with the SaaS Boss community.
Hey, thanks for having me. Looking forward to having a chat.
You are a very well-known figure in the SaaS community. You are also a fellow event organizer. You are a local leader for a SaaS Stock event. So I am excited to chat with you today. So Peter, can you give a high-level overview of what it is that you'll be sharing with us today?
What I'm going to be talking about is how to create value for your users, but right on your product dashboard. So the dashboard is often one of the most important places for the first impression of your product, and it's also a place where users regularly go when they log in. It's almost like the beginning of a lot of journeys. It's also where they go to kind of get an overview of their account information and data. So I'm going to talk about basically how to make that the best possible experience for your users and provide value for them right there in your product dashboard.
So Peter, super excited about that. The floor is yours.
Okay, so I'm just going to run through basically this talk, how to create a value-based dashboard for your users, right? So first of all, I just start with a quick definition of the dashboard and what is it? Because the reason I do this is some people ask, oh, are you talking about like a business dashboard where you look at metrics for your business? Because obviously a lot of SaaS companies track metrics for their business too, their KPIs. But no, I'm talking about the dashboard that lives right within your product, and it's often the first thing your users see when they log in, especially new users as well. I want to just invite you to imagine this scenario, right? You're getting in your car and you're about to go somewhere. So you have this dashboard in the car, and this is a good analogy, right? Because first of all, you need to think about what makes this a good dashboard. So often when you're driving, you're not really going to think about this consciously. But first of all, you've got a destination in mind, right? Something you want to achieve. It's the place you want to go. So that's first of all. The second thing is that you need information on how to get there. So we all use, our kind of like GPI, our maps, and we put in our destination there, and that helps us get there. And a lot of cars with good dashboards have that integrated, right? The other thing is you need the controls, right? The navigation, ability to navigate. So you've got your steering wheel, you've got your gear stick or your automatic car, and all of the controls that enable you to indicate to get to your destination. And then you also have some feedback, some data, right? So you also get data from the dashboard, which is things like the distance, how fast you're going, what kind of duration of the journey, how long will it be until you get there. You've also got things like that makes you aware of your environment, what's going to happen, what kind of road you're on, whether there are cars near you, whether there are some roadworks and you have to adjust. So all of these things go into making your experience successful as a driver, and having a powerful dashboard does that. And it's quite similar for software products, right? They have to do all of these very same things, help the user get to their destination, have to give them the information, the tools to enable them to get there and actually produce the work they need to do, and help them to navigate through all of the tasks and all of the elements that they need to navigate through in order to achieve their desired outcome. So that's a good analogy and a good place to start. But why would you want to create value in your dashboard? Well, the more you make a great impression for your users, the more value you provide for them, the higher their loyalty to your product is going to be, right? So we're all familiar with the concept of utilization in a product. The best products that have the strongest growth have really good utilization, which means that the users spend more time in the product, getting more out of the product. So the more value you provide, the more time your users are going to be spending in the product, like in theory, right? So that's generally why you want to work on this. You get a higher NPS rating, you get more loyalty, and you just get a better kind of word of mouth, better marketing around your product, because people start to recognize it as a valuable product. But there are a few things that make it especially difficult. One of the things that makes it really difficult is that in your product, you probably have different users. Not everybody is the same. You've got these different profiles. So I like to give this example of a company that, imagine you've got an HR software that manages people and hiring. If you take these three images here of people here, all right, on the left, you might have this girl might be a hiring manager, right? The guy in the middle might be a kind of founder or CEO person. The guy on the right, that might be a candidate who's applying for a role there, right? So each of these people, if they log into the same HR software, they need a very different experience, a very different out, and what's relevant to them is also very different. So that's why that's what makes it very difficult, because you've got one dashboard, but you're catering to these many different profiles, and it's very common to have much more than three. So what makes a dashboard suck, right? What are the common mistakes? And I like to show this graphic because this is a dashboard, really classic dashboard, because it shows a lot of information and data, but it has so much wrong with it, right? You can probably see straight away. I'll just touch on a few things that I could talk about this for a while, but first of all, there's too much information. It's confusing. There's too many colors. The layout doesn't show any sense of hierarchy or importance of information on this dashboard. And, I wonder if you've ever seen a SaaS dashboard that looks something like this. I've actually seen quite a few SaaS products that have a dashboard that look like this. And
Absolutely.
I mean, yeah, and that's quite a problem, right? So if you have something like this in your product, that the likelihood is that it's confusing users and giving them a sense of overwhelm. And obviously then it's difficult for them to get that value that you need them to get from your product. So in order to think about how do you create value, what are the things that you need to do? I've spoken with 5 software companies that have a really good example. They've got a good story to tell about how they developed a really great dashboard. So first of all, I wanted to share this one, which is from Holded. They're a company that have an ERP software. Is for managing small businesses, and you can really manage most of the elements of a small business through Holded, their software. They're based in Barcelona here, actually. They're one of the growing Series A companies here. What they did is that they identified that they had 6 different user profiles. And they found this out because they had a very generic dashboard that wasn't really valuable for all of their profiles. So they said, okay, how are we going to make this a more valuable dashboard? They went through the process of going, okay, who are our main users? And they came up with these 6 user profiles, their main user profiles. And they decided to list out their job functions. So you can see at the top left of this dashboard, we're looking at the CEO dashboard. So they realized that they have one for CEOs. They needed to make one for CFOs who are looking at just the finance, the sales guys, the marketing guys. So they had these 6 different C-level profiles, and they designed dashboards specifically for those people. So, when they started to look at the CEO dashboard, for instance, they could be really focused about what the CEO needs to see. He needs, an overview of the cash in the business. He needs to have an overview of the forecast of what they think they're going to achieve. Also the sales, the expenses. You can see on the bottom left, the productivity chart. So that's giving them a sense of the most important information and data for them in their business. So all of a sudden, for CEOs, this dashboard was really tailored to what they need and what they want to see. And then likewise, CFOs who logged in, they had a very different experience. So now Holded are able to cater to the different user profiles that use their software, and they were able to build value doing it that way. So I thought that was a really neat example to start with. The founder, there are 2 co-founders at Holded, and Javi, one of the co-founders, he had this to say about the process. We're always looking for the state that best serves most users in each segment. So even when you split things up into user profiles, you can never get the perfect dashboard for every single person. But once you do put them into these segments, you can find all the common requirements of that group and design for it and do a really great job. So this was his goal, and I think they did a good job on that. So next up is Personia, who are an HR software. They actually call themselves a people software for managing people in businesses. They're from Munich. They're a bigger company. They're at a Series C level. And they found that they had a version of their dashboard that wasn't quite right. They iterated once, and then the third time they did a lot of research. So they went out and they spoke to the hiring managers that used their software, and they said to them, hey, like, what do you need to see on the dashboard when you log in every day that would make this really useful for you? Because previously, we've been guessing, but we need to answer your head a little bit and understand what that is. So they did a series of interviews, and from the interviews, they had a few responses that many of the hiring managers said, like common responses, the same thing, and they thought, okay, right, these are clearly important things. And some of them were, well, we need to see an overview of what's happening on that particular day. We want to know who's in the office. We want to know who's out of the office. We want to know who is in training. We want to know what interviews we have lined up. And we also want to know what kind of tasks we have in the day. So this meant that they basically developed a dashboard that had loads of information data that's changing all the time throughout the day. So this meant that their dashboard became like a living and breathing dynamic dashboard. Information's always changing. Every day it looks different. At different times of the day it's changing too. And it gave them a real handle on what's happening in their business at that particular moment. So the key outcome for this one is to provide a contextual experience, right? So whatever the context of your user's working life is, you want your dashboard to provide value for them at that point. And that's a really key learning point for this. So that's a good one. I like to keep that one as a great example. And that's Personio. And I think with this dashboard, they had really great success. They had really great feedback. So I think they did also a really good job. This company is GeckoBoard. And GeckoBoard is an ironic example because they actually provide dashboards solutions. But their dashboards are for company metrics. So if you want to manage KPIs or any metric within your business, then GeckoBoard is a really great product to do that. But what GeckoBoard found was that to get a new user to sign up and create a dashboard was actually a really difficult task, because building your own dashboard actually has a lot of complexity in it. And also what makes it more difficult is that GeckoBoard are a self-service SaaS. So they need users to be able to sign up, take a free trial, set up their own dashboard without any help, and then push it live and use it for their business. So they need their users to experience that value. So what GeckoBoard have done in their process in order to get this to happen is that they have created a goal-based navigation, almost a user journey designed specifically to help the user to come up with the ideas that they need to create their dashboards, right? So I spoke with the founder, and one of the things he said is that people don't really know what they want on their dashboard when they first start. They just think, oh, we need a dashboard for our business. When they start building it, they immediately get stuck because they're not quite sure what widgets they need. So this navigation process takes the user through the journey of deciding and helping them construct with different widgets so that they come up with a strong solution. So ironically, GeckoBoard's dashboard is all about giving the user a journey and navigating them and supporting them through that journey so that they can build their own dashboard on their own. And that's a really interesting one, because often the dashboard is the very first step of the user's journey. So that's why I like to use this one. And the head of product at GeckoBoard said something really interesting. When I asked him how he solved this problem, he said quantitative data shows where the problem is, but qualitative data tells us how to solve it. So the key thing about this is that they could see people dropping off in the journey of building their own dashboard, but they couldn't tell kind of what the problem was. So they had their own data showing where people drop off, but they actually had to get into the user interviews, into exploring the problem to find the information on why they were dropping off. And once they have the why, they can start to create ideas around how to solve that. And that's one thing that GeckoBoard worked on quite well to get to this solution, which is working for them today. So we've got a couple more left to run through. And this example is Force Manager. And the key lesson here is to show metrics to your users that support their desired outcome, right? So if you've got a software that that promises an outcome for its users, then you need to be showing the data that helps them get to that outcome, right? That drives them, that motivates them, that incentivizes them, and also helps them to track their progress on whether they're actually achieving that goal. So Force Manager have a software for sales managers and sales teams, essentially. So the sales executives in these teams will have something very similar to what we're looking at here, which is a mobile dashboard. So they're out, making sales, they're booking appointments. They're obviously doing that more remotely now during Corona. But what they have at their fingertips here is the data that lets them know how they're doing. Are they reaching their sales targets? How many visits or how many meetings do they need to schedule in order to get 10 clients that will pay X amount to help them hit their target? So that's what it's all about when you're trying to show data and metrics to your users. It's really important to know their goal and provide the metrics that support them and help them achieve that goal, because them getting success in your product is the whole thing that's going to drive the value for them, and that's what you're looking to achieve, of course. And the last lesson here is from AdZoomer, and I wanted to include this one as the last slide because I think what they did is just a really fantastic job here at quantifying the return on investment that they provide to their users. So what they have is an ads management platform. It helps users to monitor the success and the efficiency of their ads, their paid advertising through Facebook, through PPC campaigns, and etc. So for users that are paying for AdZoomer, they obviously want to know what the value of the product is. And when it's a SaaS that doesn't bring in direct revenue, like one for managing sales that we saw with Force Manager, then you have to quantify that return on investment for your users. And one way AdZoomer did it here was, you see this big blue widget on the right-hand side. This is really their area where they quantify in real terms the value that they've developed for their users. So, it shows the time saving, and it shows them how many opportunities they've produced by using the AdZoomer platform. So that's a really great way to show the users the revenue, the time and opportunities that they're getting directly from using the software. And here's what the founder said for that. He said, David Sharp, he said, we needed to quantify time and money saved in order for our users to understand the value we were adding, which is a really great way of putting things. He found it difficult to articulate the value, although they know the value is there, but in showing it and quantifying it in metrics, that helped really hit that message home for the users. So that's really, that really sums up 5 really good examples of what you can do on your dashboard to make sure that you're driving a lot of value there. And the way I sum this up is just to help users achieve their goals by providing the framework to succeed. So your product is the place where you contain the framework, right? If you embed a framework into your product that helps users achieve their goal, that helps them succeed, then the value is within the product. That also helps to differentiate you in the marketplace as well, and helps you to stand out by having a unique product with a unique framework or system embedded within it. I created this workflow to help people in thinking about it, right? I've called it value mapping, the value mapping framework. So one way to think about this is to just define all of the different things you need to think about when you're creating the dashboard. So on the left-hand side, you've got your user profiles. So you list out who your user profiles are. And on the far right-hand side, you list out the desired outcome for those users. And then in between, you've got this journey where you can start to list out, okay, if this is their desired outcome, what are the goals, right? What are the goals that you can help them with to help them achieve that desired outcome? And then you can also think about, well, what are the interactions that we can provide in our software that helps them achieve the goals, that helps them reach that desired outcome? Now, it also happens to be that users have 3 different states when they're using software. They're either logging in and they're an early user, first user, for instance, and they're in discovery mode. They're trying to discover what the product does. what it can do for them. They're in the create mode where they're actually doing work. They're logging information. If it's a CRM, for instance, they've been making calls, logging those calls. So we call that the create mode. And then there's the review mode, which is similar to if you're going in to check statistics or you're going in to get some reports, looking at reporting, you want some information or data about the business. So when you think about the interactions and the goals, it's good to know what kind of different states your user will be when they visit your dashboard. And it's great to cater for each of these states in the grander scheme of thinking about their desired outcome. So that should help anyone working on their dashboard to think about it, the best way to do that. And that's it generally. So hopefully that's helpful.